Thanks for staying with us. We continue with our top story news coming in overnight from the Health Minister Zweli Mkhize that South Africa was halting its vaccination program, the Sisonke vaccination program, currently being administered to health workers with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. At issue are reports of blood clots from six women in the United States who've so far taken the vaccine. No confirmation as yet of a link between the vaccine itself and these blood clots, but here we are with a precautionary suspension. We can discuss this now with University of Stellenbosch epidemiologist Joe Barnes joining us by Skype, I believe, this afternoon. Good to have your time, Joe. So, did the South African government overreact by suspending the vaccinations for health workers, given that we're only sitting here with 6 cases, right, of blood clots out of 6.8 million vaccinations?
The South African government is in a difficult position, and I have sympathy with the fact that they have stopped this. They have to weigh the risks versus the benefits. The risks are extremely small. It's less than 1 in a million vaccinations that this has happened. Happened only in 6 relatively young women between 18 and 48 years old. And one must keep in mind that the virus itself is also associated to, in a much greater degree, with blood clots itself. The same has happened in Europe to the AstraZeneca vaccine, which is a different vaccine. So they have also had a very, very rare handful of cases that this has happened to. So we are not entirely sure that it is even connected to the vaccine. But as the term goes, out of an abundance of caution, the government stopped it because the Food and Drug Administration in the US also stopped their J&J vaccination for a while. It's probably not going to last long, and one has to weigh up the pros and cons. What I am concerned about is that everybody who wants to justify the fact that they refuse to have themselves vaccinated will jump on this, and there's a big, I'm expecting a big disinformation campaign stemming from this.
On that then, Joe, let me ask you this. My apologies for jumping in. As you say, there was already vaccine skepticism and what has been dubbed the anti-vaxxer movement in parts of the world, right? What can governments such as South Africa, Europe, the United States do about that? Because they are not responsible for the production of these vaccines. We've already seen issues now, allegedly, with both AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson, and that's not the role of governments to make sure that they don't produce the vaccines.
No, the role of government is to inform people and keep on informing and communicating as to why they made that decision and how big they think the risk is. And I'm a bit disappointed in the communication drives coming from the government. There has not been as much communication as I would have hoped in taking the people along. The more honest you are, the quicker you react, and the more forcefully you put the real situation out into the community, the less of this information you get. So that is the role of government.
I want to go back to the point you were making about AstraZeneca and Europe, because the advice there now is that it not be given to people under the age of 30, for example. You look at the complaints or what's being investigated with Johnson & Johnson, you've got 6 women, all of them under the age of 50. Are we likely headed in a direction where globally we'll have to have vaccines that are administered to the young and then others that will then be more suitable for the elderly?
It would seem as if that would be the wisest course. If you have a vaccine that works well for older people, and another one that works much better for the young or the younger people, that seems to me to be like common sense. And that's the kind of things that need to be communicated to the people. But I do think there's a positive that comes from this for South Africa at least. We know that the rollout plans aren't in very good shape, and there has not yet been formal communication about exactly how the plan would look like. And if they wait for 2 weeks or so to solve this problem, it would buy the government a little bit extra time to plan this very complex rollout program a little bit better. Because it would also not be in our interest if the rollout plan is a mess.
And just on the rollout plans possibly becoming a mess, what role do you think the indemnity agreements will play in countries either being willing or hesitant in purchasing the various vaccines? Because as things stand, the pharmaceutical companies are saying, look, we'll sell you these vaccines, but if there are complications, it has to be the respective nations that then have to compensate citizens who may come down with an adverse, or rather extreme adverse side effect.
That is a standard procedure across all vaccines, across time. It has always been in place. It is not new. And if a vaccine manufacturer has to carry the cost of the world, even though it is 1 in a million, if they have to carry those considerable insurance costs and costs to remunerate people who have suffered some kind of damage, that we would have no vaccine manufacturers in the world. There is no vaccine manufacturer that has got that kind of capacity to carry that. So along with the selling of the vaccines, they also sell the responsibility to the governments, which is probably why the government has now actually, call it almost reacted with overcaution, because they have to stand in for that. But you know, a 1 in a million risk, there isn't an insurer that would even lose sleep over that sort of risk. It is so small.
Jo Barnes, good to speak to you. Jo is with the University of Stellenbosch, where she is an epidemiologist.